Here we go. All right. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about testosterone production. We're going to talk about the lies that the pharmaceutical mafia is telling young men right now. We're going to talk about how testosterone is tied to the overall energetic state of the body, how the brain perceives that, the raw materials we need to actually produce it, the chain of command when producing it, the lifestyle factors that lead to an abundance of it, and why taking it exogenously is completely unnecessary for most people. Once we understand that high amounts of testosterone is not a biological need, it's a want. And if our body senses a low energy state or senses that organ systems aren't operating the way they should, that glucose and cortisol rhythms aren't operating the way that they should, that our daily patterns are not giving us clear energy and order, the last thing your body is worried about is high amounts of testosterone. That is a luxury. It's a great thing to have, 100%. Should be a goal for every guy to have naturally high amounts of testosterone. But if you're not taking care of your life, of your health, your body doesn't give a single shit, because you feeling really good in the gym and having a great night's sleep and feeling vigor towards life is not your body's biological need for survival. And it's always going to prioritize the things that help us survive versus the things that help us feel thrived and optimized. And high testosterone is one of those things. Also, a lot of the ads that I see on Instagram and that I hear in podcasts try to convince men that, oh, your symptom of anxiety, your poor sleep, your lack of energy in the gym, this is all to do with your low testosterone. And again, that's not true. It can be a factor, but taking one biomarker and then building a whole entire thing around it is classic pharmaceutical mafia bullshit. Ignore it. Listen to this webinar. Do your own research. Don't trust anyone, especially not just a guy on a YouTube channel. Listen to me. If what I'm saying to you aligns with you, go look into it for yourself. But testosterone is about the overall energetic state of the body. Now, what I mean by that is that it's an abundance hormone. Your body only invests in building it when your overall energetic state is safe and well supplied, meaning the way you're sleeping, the way you're eating, the supplements you're taking and or not taking, the products you're using in your home, on your skin, all of this matters. All of this is giving a signal to our body of safety and abundance or of stress and deterioration. And that in and of itself is going to have a massive effect on your ability to produce high amounts of testosterone. Okay, the first place that this all starts is in the brain. Your sense of abundance isn't abstract, it travels a physical wire. And what I mean by this is your hypothalamus is, you can think of it as the command center of your brain. It's going to read safety, it's going to read overall energetics of the body. When it senses, hey, there's a lot of energy here, my nervous system's good, we got raw material, I feel safe, it sends a signal, which is gonadotropic releasing hormone, which goes to the pituitary gland. That releases something called luteinizing hormone, which ends up at the testes and stimulates the testes to build testosterone. Okay, so when we stress all the time, sleep poorly, undereat, we have excess estrogens, xenoestrogens in our environment from the things we're using, products we're using, that chain of command gets stuck because we don't feel, our mind, our body doesn't feel physically safe. It doesn't feel abundant. The last thing it's worried about is that production. So we just talked about the brain and how the brain needs to sense overall energetics. Now we also just need basic raw materials. Okay, you can have all, you can do all the breath work exercises and you can get rid of all the microplastics. But if you don't give yourself fats and cholesterol, which is the backbone of every single sex hormone in the body, all the other signals will be right, but you won't have the raw material. Okay, it's like having the best builder, the best architect, the best everyone on site to build your dream house, but you forgot to order the material. So raw materials are also vitally important. And this is eating, good quality eggs, good quality fish and seafood, olive oil, avocado, pasture raised meats, Brazil nuts, things that are going to provide good fats, good cholesterol, good building blocks so that we actually have the raw material when it's time to do the job. Now, where does the job actually begin? So we talked about the brain sensing overall energetics. We talked about the raw material that you're going to get from your diet. But the production happens in your mitochondria. Okay. Every steroid hormone begins as pregnenolone, and pregnenolone is made inside the mitochondria, where cholesterol is converted by an enzyme on the inner membrane. If you don't have healthy mitochondria, you don't get efficient pregnenolone, and you don't get the raw material for testosterone. So we go cholesterol, mitochondria, pregnenolone, testosterone. We need to support healthy mitochondria because, as we see here, we need adequate levels of pregnenolone, and that is being produced in the mitochondria. Now, everything that's going to support just overall energy is supporting our mitochondria because our mitochondria produce energy. So this is the daily movement, the sunlight, nutrients. It's a life and rhythm. All of these systems work better when we give the inputs that are needed. Okay, now once we have pregnenolone, and in order for pregnenolone to be produced, we talked about we need healthy mitochondria, we need adequate levels of cholesterol, we need a brain that is feeling healthy and vibrant. And pregnenolone can be pushed down two paths. And now this is tied deeply towards your nervous system. And if you're living in a sympathetic state all the time, or if you're living parasympathetic and just bursting into sympathetic when you need it. So pregnenolone can be pushed down to two paths. It can be DHEA or it can be cortisol. If pregnenolone is converted into cortisol, we can think of that as the stress pathway. Resources are delivered to make cortisol. We have less precursor left over for testosterone, and a lot of pregnenolone being pushed to cortisol is driven by poor sleep, overtraining, constant business pressure, just never giving our bodies a second to come back to our center, relax, feel good. If we're constantly living in stress, pregnenolone, cortisol. Now, if we are doing the right things, pregnenolone flows towards DHEA and then to testosterone. We can think of this pathway as anabolic and restorative. And what favors pregnenolone being pushed down this pathway is when we're calm, when we have good sleep, when we're providing the body adequate nutrients, when we are staying away from chemical products that lead to xenoestrogens in the body. Again, it's all tied to everything. It's not just one thing. Mineral cofactors are super important as well, meaning in order to produce testosterone and have it work the way that you want it to, we need things like zinc, we need magnesium, we need boron. Okay, as an example, if we become very deficient in magnesium, that can lead to poor sleep. What does poor sleep lead to? Lack of testosterone being produced, because the majority of our testosterone is produced when we're resting, when we're sleeping. Boron. Boron raises free testosterone and it lowers something called sex hormone binding globulin. So sex hormone binding globulin is something that runs around and binds things. So when something is bound, it means it cannot be used as a raw material. So boron in and of itself will actually raise free testosterone just by lowering sex hormone binding globulin's ability to bind it. Then we have zinc. Okay, super important for luteinizing hormone signaling. If you remember back to here, when we talked about luteinizing hormone and how that step is huge for the testes to actually start. If we don't get this signal right, this downstream stuff can't happen. So you can be doing almost everything right and be super low in zinc, and because of that, not adequately produce testosterone. So mineral cofactors are very important. Where do we find these? We find these in real food produced in real soil. We can also supplement with these as well. But if we're eating good quality food, grown in real soil, connecting with local farmers, we're generally going to get enough of this. And then we can, use good companies like Thorne, ATP Labs, and we can actually take these in supplemental form. But if we're eating the right foods, if we're connecting with local farmers, we're going to have a lot of these minerals. Okay, I've talked about this in a lot of YouTube videos, but every system in your body is running on a circadian rhythm. And when we are in rhythm and when our body is producing energy smoothly and we're going to bed at the same time and we're waking up at the same time and we're getting light at the same time every day and we're turning off shitty blue light at night and we're eating our meals in the same rhythm and we're done eating by 6, 7 o'clock and we're moving in the morning, what does all of that do? It primes us to fall asleep when we should at night. It primes the rhythms of testosterone to peak when they should and drop when they should. It primes the rhythms of cortisol to rise when it should and drop when it should. It puts our body in rhythm. And what does rhythm do? It's a signal of safety. What's a signal of safety? Remember back to our first slide we talked about with the brain. When the brain feels safe, when it feels like there's an abundance of energy, it's like, let's make testosterone. We have the energy, we have the raw material, we have the structure, we have the daily rhythm. Now, if our light environment is shit, we never get morning sunlight, we're looking at a screen all day. If our food is coming from this, if we're barely moving our body, if we lay in bed watching Netflix, fall asleep at midnight and wake up at 9 a.m., why would your body produce testosterone at a high level? It's going to be running on so much stress. There's going to be so many backlog systems within the body. You're not going to have that state of energetic abundance. The brain is going to be perceiving threat because the body is not nourished. And when that happens, you will never have naturally high levels of testosterone. Okay, training hard and carrying less fat is also very important. And again, now all of this is tied to, if you're doing all of the other things, you have the capacity to train hard. And when you have the capacity to train hard stacked on top of all of the other lifestyle patterns, you're naturally going to carry less fat. And now, why is that important? Well, one, lifting heavy weights is a potent stimulus for your body to produce testosterone. And carrying less fat is very important because there's an enzyme called aromatase in fat cells. And what that enzyme does is converts testosterone into estrogen. So if you're carrying high amounts of body fat, even if you're producing testosterone at a decent level, your body is naturally going to be converting it into estrogen because that's what fat cells can do. So carrying less body fat is a huge lever we can pull, but carrying less body fat is tied to everything we've already talked about in here. Now, managing the daily stress, okay? In order for the brain to feel safe, in order for that cortisol to DHEA pathway to go down to the testosterone producing and not go to the cortisol stress producing pathway, we need to be able to manage daily stress load. Now, that isn't just about a 20-minute breath work or a 20-minute meditation. Of course, these are important. Slow rhythmic breathing helps calm the nervous system. You even just take a couple breaths like that and you feel it right away. But managing daily stress load is also is deeply tied to all of the patterns of our day. The way that we're sleeping, when we're eating food and what we're eating, what does our light environment look like? What time are we waking up in the morning? When are we training? How hard are we training? Are we pulling back when we should? And the more that are we eating enough calories? Are we eating enough macronutrients to actually have the raw materials there? So managing the daily stress load of life is critical because the more that we do this, the more that we have the brain have the signal of, oh, we're safe. The more raw material we have, the less raw material gets pushed to the stress pathway, the more it gets pushed to the anabolic building, life vitality, resilient pathway. So managing our daily load through practices that help us center, recovery rituals, but then just the way that we live our life, this is going to produce high levels of natural testosterone. Okay, some targeted supplements. I really like things like Shilajit, zinc, magnesium that we talked about. I like Shilajit because it's providing a lot of just raw minerals. Shilajit doesn't do anything magical. You've probably heard about this a million times online. It's not that it's giving you testosterone, it's just giving you a lot of the raw precursor minerals that your body needs in order to produce it. Another thing that we haven't talked about that I will use with clients sometimes is modified citrus pectin. This is a really good binder. So if someone is dealing with a high toxic load, then modified citrus pectin first thing in the morning can be a good binder to just grab onto toxins within the body and excrete them, because high toxic load in the form of something like xenoestrogens and heavy metals can be endocrine disruptors, which means you will naturally produce less testosterone because you will have higher estrogen and less ability to actually make the raw material that you need. So clearing out the endocrine disruptors, this is such a easy and vital part of it. Skip plastics. Don't use plastics anymore. Use glass, use stainless steel, just anything that's plastic in your house for the most part, just get rid of it. Drop synthetic fragrances like the things you hang in your car, the shitty deodorants and colognes guys will use, the terrible Old Spice body wash. Just get rid of scents that aren't natural. You don't need it. Okay, filter your water, eat whole foods. When we are using harsh cleaning chemicals, artificial fragrances, these all act as xenoestrogens. So these are foreign compounds that mimic estrogen. They actually latch onto estrogen receptors and they scramble hormone production. They raise something called your estrogenic load and they suppress testosterone and also damage mitochondria. So when our body has all of these xenoestrogens, they start binding onto places that they shouldn't. And the body starts to think, hey, I'm in a high hormone environment. I can just taper down all of my hormone production. Even though it's not testosterone, even though it is estrogen mimicking, it still messes with the brain signals. And your brain starts to think, oh, there's a lot of resources here. There's a lot of hormones I can just down regulate. So get rid of plastics, get rid of shitty fragrances, filter your water, eat whole foods. Very important. So honestly, if I were to build a day that is going to lead to high natural amounts of testosterone production, it's very simple. Circadian system has to be dialed in. So we have to be going to sleep at a good time, sleeping 7 to 9 hours, deep restorative sleep, which means we need to get morning sunlight. We need to cut out any overhead lights or screens by 7, 8 p.m. We want to try and eat our last meal of the day by 6 or 7 p.m. We want to eat high nutrient dense meals throughout the day. Real fruits, real vegetables, real meats, real whole foods. Simple as that. Cut out all the snacking, cut out all the bullshit. Drinking, don't drink alcohol every day. If you drink alcohol every day, that's going to wreak havoc on your circadian system. It's going to wreak havoc on your digestion. It's going to wreak havoc on your ability to recover. It's going to wreak havoc on your sleep. And then downstream, all of that is going to affect testosterone. I would try and move in the morning. Even if you don't have time for a full-blown workout, if you can get some good quality movement in before 10 a.m. and try to work out earlier in the day, like anytime between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. is perfect. Now, if due to life circumstances, you can only work out later in the day, that's fine. Build in some form of working in to your life. So find a practice of meditation or breathing to recenter yourself daily. Be aware of the foods you're eating. Just be aware of the energetics of your life, because the energetics of your life are what are going to lead to having good natural amounts of testosterone or having very low amounts. If we can get energy right, you never have to worry about it again. So I really hope that this presentation helped you understand all of the factors that bleed into natural production of testosterone and how it is fully in your control. You have the ability to produce it at a high level. It's just a matter of if you're willing to live a life in rhythm, live a life aligned with natural biological rhythms, and cut out the bullshit from your life. And if you do that, Your body and brain are going to feel safe. Your system's going to feel energetic abundance. You're going to have the raw materials, and the default state of the body when that happens is to produce testosterone at a naturally high level. I hope that helped you. If you do want to work with me, you can email me, luke@primitivepatterns.ca, or message me on Instagram @primitivepatterns. Ciao for now, and stay away from the pharmaceutical mafia.